Hey there, all you dancers, dance makers, and all-around booty shakers. This is The Process, and I'm your host, Alyssa Gregory. Yay! We're doing it! Welcome to the group chat. Yeah, I'm so incredibly thrilled to be back this season, to try something new this go-round. We've been here for a minute, which I'm really thankful for, and I took a pause and I felt the need to come back for many, many, many reasons. But I wanted, as usual, to challenge myself and do something different. And I was like, I love one-on-one conversations, but I love a group. And so I was like, Angel, I would like to do the group chat. I want a group chat. I want a round table. And we sat and we brainstormed and we came up with some ideas and ta-da. Yay!
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes. We're here today to talk about group ensemble work, and I'm really excited to have this group with me. I would like for y'all, can you introduce yourselves and say your name and your pronouns?
Brody, she, her.
SJ Swilley, they, them, theirs.
Camila Rivero, she, her, they, them.
Rahila Coates, she, her.
Amazing. So I'm going to be transparent with the listeners. We've all had pre-interviews, so we're all familiar with each other in some regards. So the feeling of this is we're friends, we're co-workers, we're peers. So this is casual. We're having brunch. We've had drinks. We are feeling very, very good. We're also here to talk about Chicago dance, right? We're all here in the city of Chicago. We're dancers, we're dance makers, we're booty shakers. And the focus of this is the beauty of Chicago dance. And I'm curious about why you all made Chicago dance your home. Yeah? Who wants to start us off?
I think Chicago being my home, I think I fought it for a moment. My intention coming to Chicago was to just have it be a transitional space, kind of start off my career, and then take a big leap into the New York dance scene or the LA dance scene. But after 2, 3, 4 years, I did move away during the pandemic. And that was slightly intentional prior to the big thing happening. But, with the pandemic happening, it kind of made sense at that point in time. But when I was away, there was this just moment of deep missing of the community that is in Chicago. And I feel like there is something special with this group of artists and humans and makers and teachers and administrators. There's just something about the cohesion and the desire for everyone to do their best, or to hype people up, or to just see what's happening and have a genuine curiosity and a genuine care for. At least that's kind of what I've found my personal experience with the Chicago community. And so it was 9 months, and I moved back when I could. I was like, I didn't leave.
I'll get back. You had a similar experience where you had to move away and came back.
Yeah, I came here to Chicago for college, so I was here 6 years. And then being an international student from Venezuela, I had just 1 year to basically you gotta make it or break it. You gotta stay here, find people, do impact, and then go back. And that year was incredible for me because I felt I met Jude in that year. I met Erin Kilmurray. That opened doors for me in a really beautiful way. And then I left, right? Because my OPT was done, you can't stay anymore. So I left. I went back to Lima, Peru, and then the pandemic hit. And while I was there, even though I have a very spirit of traveling and moving, I was it's so hard to find beautiful people that you connect in not only an artistic way, but in a deeper layer of how you see life and want to move around it. And then I was kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
For 3 years. And then I came back, and it's been great. Slowly it's different.
Yeah.
I heard this quote from person that I don't remember right now, of course. And he talks about immigration. It talks about like, you never come back, you always leave a place. So I came back thinking like, oh, I'm coming back to this old kind of self or whatever. And then I came back and I was like, no, everything has changed. People have changed. Some people don't, but everything is different. Yeah. And then changing that mindset was like good, but also like looking at myself like, wow, I have grown so much in the past 3 to 4 years. I see performance different now. How can I like integrate myself back into, the space? And so I'm here and I feel like Chicago is like a good place to like play and experiment.
Yeah.
And that's where like my mind is right now.
Yeah, we talked about play and experiment, I think.
Oh yeah, because I mean, the play has definitely been an experimentation, has definitely lended itself to a particular kind of opening, I think, for me. I think the past 5 or 6 years, I'm going to say 5 years, I've definitely been through my fair share of changes. Since 2019, I left and graduated from grad school, and then from that, I've been on this sort of independent path of having my shit sort of like bursted wide open. As a result, I've been in this largely like heavy raw space, and I think that coming to Chicago has amplified that in a lot of ways. And I've experienced some good and some not so good with that reality. But what I've noticed in my art making since choosing to plant my feet here, whether it be through education or direct art making, is that as a solo artist, it's been, experimentation and like really carving my own path so as to say like how I want to be recognized as an artist. But what I've noticed is that, I have ancestors that are from the Midwest, that my mother's lineage is from Kansas. And so Chicago, being the largest city in the Midwest, has like been a really good place for me to sort of assess where I am en route to my lineage. And so I think that the street dance culture here, the community that is local to the city and specific to like digging your own vocabularies has been really helpful and helping me sort of track the vocabularies that are indigenous to my own body. But it's been hard. It's been actually super challenging because, you amalgamate and you shift. And so just because my shit has to kind of be on pause, it actually keeps going for everybody else. And I'm not actually always sure about where to, be. Yeah. But I think Chicago has always sort of like echoed back to me like where I am in real time.
I like when you talked about like lineage, because I think that Chicago has so much history of movement here, but I think it also comes from family as well, because those are the people that like keep telling the story and keep the history of dance going. I know you have family here, right?
Yeah. So my dad and his family were one of the first families that moved into the Robert Taylor homes. And so my dad grew up in Inglewood, and I feel like, similar to the lineage in Chicago, like it runs really deep for me. And also is, I'm learning something new all the time. Like my aunt, she worked for the Black Panthers and she was a nurse, and like getting to know her while I'm here, getting to know family members that have lived here this whole time, but I didn't grow up in Chicago, has been such a blessing to learn about the city through them, and then also learn about the history of the city through the dance community. But because the city is changing so much, and because like our world is just moving so fast, there is just so much information to take in. And then I also realized that in Chicago, I think that is people's response in Chicago is to slow down. Not exactly like ignore what's going on, but I think people are doing like that Sankofa shit where like they're like looking back in order to go forward. Like, oh, okay, right. And I think it's so special, and a way of the resiliency that makes me love Chicago so much. Like because everybody knows how rich the history is here, and everybody's like holding on to it so tightly because it's the way that we can move through the city. It like, I don't know, the way my aunt talks about what Chicago used to be like and how nice the Robert Taylor homes were when she first moved in. She's like, it used to look like this. And I'm like, really? Because I don't know. I just feel like there's so much cool history. And I'm seeing a lot of people talk about that in all of their work.
Yeah.
You know, or even where they choose to present their work in the area.
Yes.
Of like, oh, like what neighborhood or like how is this impacting the community? Like, I think that processing is also really special. And I don't think that I've experienced that in other places.
Yeah.
Which is why I just love to be a part of stuff here.
Yeah.
You know?
Who was it that said that people in Chicago wear Chicago on their chest or on their back? Who was that?
I said that.
You said that? Yeah. I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it for since we talked, because I was like, there's so much pride.
There's so much
like
pride.
Chicago's like, we are the shit. Like, and you won't get it unless you are in it.
Yeah. There's something about like I don't know why I'm like doing this a lot, but it doesn't feel tough, but it feels like you're like carrying someone on your back and then you're also like moving forward. Like there's like a light on you or something. Like I think everybody just really cares about home a lot here. It's so beautiful.
How has the city's like dance community like influenced your artistic journey?
I mean, it's definitely made me want to tap into what is specific to my own vocabulary as a moving artist, as a movement artist, as a performing artist, as a whatever the case is. There's a specific, I think, vocabulary that are coming directly out of Chicago as a result of the Great Migration and all of the multiple amalgamations that other people have experienced. That when you posture yourself as a individual trying to do whatever the case is, and it doesn't mean that you're like without community, you know, it just means that there's a different responsibility that's on that I'm tasked with, it feels like, to sort of like discover what is coming out and of me through me, because I kind of want that to be my contribution to the city. I feel like we know that house culture is coming directly from this place, and like what else can my contributions, you know, from my feet to the earth be, you know, to a larger space. Like I'm really curious now, because Chicago's history is so rich, because the culture is so deep and the love is so vast, that I'm like, oh, well, then we all have something to offer. And so I'm just like actively on this quest to figure that out for self. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and following that, I think it's also like that permission to like prototype and keep prototyping ideas and iterating, and people are like, okay, yeah, so like you can do, everybody's like so generous in their input, and like when you're just like outside exploring, that's why it's like, I say it's playful, and it's a space for like experimentation in a very like clear light per se, you know, like I want to use all of these things, how can I make this together and like find a craft that can like, you know, touch people in different ways, you know. So, and also there's like such a big variety of like artists and like art forms and formats that are presented that like every time I'm like, what? I didn't know you could do that like that. This is amazing. You know, like people are so creative, and I love that. It's like it's like a feedback loop. You know, you go out, you get informed, and then you get back, and it's that. So I feel that it's it totally influences. If you're out there, you're like even having conversations with people, you can like discover new things, and that can nurture the community and like back, you know. So
access to mentorship or access to
the
resources, the people who have been doing the work are right here, right? And you can have a conversation with them. You can be in class. You can be in process, and just in process at the bar together. You know, there is something about this lack of barrier to passing the knowledge through to the next or through to different pockets of the community. I think that there is a lot of openness and willing to share.
I agree with
from
that.
many different generations too, right? It's not just the people who are currently making work and are getting the grants right now. It's also people who have been here and access to the archives and things.
Can I add to that too?
Yeah.
I think on top of that, I think there's an idea of, or people I think practice accountability here in a fun way. Especially when it comes to people like people who didn't grow up in the city, or people who are touring work or coming here. There was an artist, a dear friend, Drew Lewis, or once we had seen something, and we finished seeing the show, and it was in Chicago, and he was like, you just can't do that here. He was like, you can't, like, it was interesting to hear someone say, like, you can't do something with, I don't know how to phrase it, but, like, it was the idea where, like, there's a sense of protection of Chicago.
Yes.
And there's a sense of protection over the work that we do. Like, you can't just, like, come in and, like, throw the thing all over the place, in which is the different part of play, where the play is the research. And I think you can kind of tell the difference in works where it's like, are we doing research together in the city versus are we like just wanting to get our voice out? So it's cool to hear someone say that, like, from Chicago, like, you can't do that here. Like, even though it's so casual, I was like, whoa, like, that's interesting to think about, like, how are people being brought in with accountability? And I think that's where the mentorship and the community comes in.
I like the idea of, like, when people come into the city that are new and they come in and they are like, oh, I'm just going to do this work and, like, everyone's going to love it. And, like, Chicago could sniff that. You're a visitor.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're not invested in what this.
Yeah.
And it's not saying, I'm not saying that you, like, have to, like, hustle and work and hard and grind, like, but you have to have some respect. Yeah. And there's some, I have personally witnessed some makers that have put work up in the city, and I'm like, you don't respect us. You don't respect the space. You don't respect the city. You don't respect the people that are doing all this work. And, like, come. Like, we're not gonna, like, shut you out, but don't think that you're, like, coming with something new, because I'm pretty sure I know a couple other people that are thinking the similar things as you.
And people be naming the people that are inspirations, I feel like, or that's a part of the work.
That's a part of the accountability work.
That's part of the accountability work, to name, like, oh, like, I know that this step is from X, Y, and Z, and I'm gonna, like, line it up. And whether or not it's, like, written on this thing, it's written in the community. Like, I think we all know what the hell is going on, you know?
If you had to quantify how much of your career has been solo work versus ensemble work?
I think for performance research devising as a collaborator, it has been predominantly ensemble work. I know that for myself, that is something that I find momentum and motivation and excitement to be surrounded by other brains and other bodies. As a teacher, my practice is very much solo work, and understanding how those two actually do relate is something that I'm still trying to understand for myself. And also solo work inside a process that is inside an ensemble work is also very much valid and there and present for me too, because I think that as an ensemble or as a collaborator, it's not just me as a body, but it's me as an individual. And I think that's something that I truly prioritize in the type of work, the people that I want to work with, and the people that have asked me to work with them, is this accountability for myself to make sure that I can still be me and bring the individuality of me and what is going on in this at this given time. You know,
I think that's so important to see the individual in that group work.
I think mine is, like, very context dependent. Like, I started a lot with, like, ensemble work because I love being with people and being around people. It's part of, like, my core values. And then being in Lima and basically at the beginning not knowing anybody, I was like, I have to go to the studio alone because I don't know anybody. You know, at the end, I ended up meeting beautiful people from the physical theater company back there. But then I started, like, being comfortable with myself in the studio just alone because I love also working with people. And it's like, oh my God, you have this idea, I have this other idea. Okay, let's put it together. It doesn't work. Let's do it again. You know, like, it's this, like, dynamic of, like, you know. And then from that, I started, like, ritualistically just going for me. You know, even if there was nothing, like, I just reserve space, this day and time, and that's it. You know, it's like, I just go. I don't care if I'm motivated or not. I just go in, you know, so. And it's sometimes uncomfortable. Like, on Friday, I have this residency with Synapse Arts, and I was on a Friday, and I was like, okay, so, like, I have to call somebody to come in because I don't know, you know, like, right now I'm in a place that it's like, I want to do with people, you know, right now. sometimes, yes, I go into the studio to like try to figure out myself first.
Sure.
Before putting out the ideas.
Yeah.
But this Friday was a big like, no, I need people. That's it.
Yeah.
I need to have a conversation constantly because I'm not going to solve the problems in my brain alone, you know? So that's kind of my, I feel that's why it's like, depends on the context of where I'm at.
Totally.
You know? So,
Totally.
yeah.
I like the self-accountability of like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go. I've done that. I've like reserved like studio space at like Soham and been like, I need Saturday morning from 10 to 1 and maybe from 10 to 11 I'm just like sitting on the floor just like staring at the ceiling and then from 11 to 11:15 I'm like okay I'm moving but just getting in there does stir up something in you.
Yeah, because it's so easy to fall off.
Yes.
Like life gets so like and it's like it's true, so it's like you have to just like sorry, my life. It's true. So it's like I was like, there's no way. It's like I don't know, going to the gym, doing a sport, it's the discipline. You know? It's like just gotta put time and then be like, I don't care if I'm crying. I'm have
get yourself there.
Just get yourself there, and then you'll figure it out. You know. So
Goodness. Well, I think that's a nice like little segue into the idea about vulnerability. And I've been just like thinking as I was like getting ready for this conversation, I was thinking a lot about finding my experiences with vulnerability and group work and trying to find like the sense of vulnerability and like how does that differ when you're making with like a group, especially like if there's like a group of strangers, right? Like you, or maybe like one or two people in the space and you gotta be like really present and like kind of raw and you're like, I don't know you.
For sure.
You know, like speak on it, Esther. Speak on it.
All I'm saying is like, I'm going to speak in a non-linear way. Got it.
Go for it.
It's just kind of like that you enter a space, there are a bunch of folk, and the being seen and perceived while in process is vulnerable. And like, it's so weird because I don't know. It's hard to assess how much of it is like willingly to be vulnerable and how much has been put on you. And it's just usually hard to assess. Meanwhile, you have to show up, which is, as a human being, I want to say hard. And it doesn't have to be. I really want to change my language around it. I'm in this whole thing where I'm doing like a personal paradigm shift. I'm really trying to see things in a different kind of light. But what I've noticed is that to be in process in collaborative, collective, anything, it still requires that rawness. And I think it always will, if you really want the work to be genuine, especially. I feel like that process of having to come up out of yourself so as to coexist with other people is like, will always be the task artistically. It's hard sometimes, and I get that.
Oh, yeah.
That makes so much sense. Now I'm like, oh yeah, that's why yesterday I was talking with Berta and he was like, it's like every time you come from like pouring yourself into something, you're super sad. And I'm like, yes, that is true.
Yeah.
And that makes like what you said, SJ, is like makes me think about like self-care during a creative process of I am very like, okay, let's do this and that, and I can have a specific type of energy, but just because I'm like regulating myself because I'm like hypersensitive, so I like feel a lot what people feel and I can get very overwhelmed. And then it's like I truly get into the vulnerable space when we're like close to the show or in the show itself. I don't never do that, I think, in the rehearsal because it's like I don't want to like tear myself tear myself up or like
you need a safe space to kind of deconstruct and fall apart, but if that space hasn't been protected or permitted, then it's hard to assess when and where.
Where can you go?
Sorry, gears are turning also because the challenge with that and the thing of going back to ensemble work, a lot of times ensemble work, like y'all are making the rules together.
Yes.
And especially if that's the first time. And I'm thinking of like collaborations that I'm in right now when it comes to music or when it comes to like dance. sometimes those are like, you are learning that as you go, and you're learning what you need in those moments of like what it means to be vulnerable, and that trust is being earned, but also the trust is shifting. It's such a challenge because with a gig, which like I know we're all familiar with, like I feel like for me it's a lot easier for me to know how to guard my heart, to be like, word, like I'm gonna hold this, but I'm gonna give this to you, and like I know how to do that. But then when it's a spot where it's like, okay, I'm with people that I really care about, and we're gonna dive into it.
And that, like going back to your paradigm shift, like that's something that I've also been exploring. Like you just said it, I've never seen it that way of like, oh yeah, I've been taught to listen to myself, but that means to ignore the rest, and it's like, no. How are then you going to find like balance, you know? So like that's part of also like me being in like, because it's easy for me to just like draw back and be like, bye, I'm isolating myself in a corner forever, you know? Like it's so easy, but then I'm like, no, I don't want to be that, so how do I have to think about things to also be in a space, but you know, have my, let's call it aura around me, be like, you know, protected of like what I want in, what I want to put out, and you know, like that. So
it makes me also think about how the juxtaposition of being in an ensemble versus a soloist, right? Like you can, it's so much easier to be vulnerable with yourself. Sometimes. Depending on the day. Yeah. Sometimes. You can lie to yourself, you know, but
I can.
Then you can't.
No. Keep going.
I mean, the representative gets tired.
One more time.
You can't lie to yourself. You can do it. It's hey,
it's easy to do.
I've done it.
So easy to do.
But you can't. You know, the mask falls off because it can't withstand or stand with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The authenticity of who you are. It actually doesn't match up.
You'll come for yourself.
All the time.
How are you able to be authentic when you also gotta like write your grants and like teach in an hour
and support yourself?
You
know, making yourself a meal.
That's wild. I have to eat. That's crazy. Listen, I gotta get gas after this. I'm like, oh my god, real life shit. What the fuck?
I feel like I'm challenged, and I'm sure y'all feel this way. Like we're always thinking an hour ahead. But our job is to be vulnerable, to invite people to be vulnerable on the stage or in podcast or in like a video or a film or something. Like we're supposed to invite people to be present, but a lot of the challenges that we face are making us think hours and weeks ahead of time. And like, I got a deadline this time, I gotta do this thing, or I gotta respond to this email, like which again is just the product of like our world. Not to discount that like people that aren't in our fields don't experience that.
True.
But I think we feel that like we have to embody it in like a different way, you know?
This makes me like this practice of how what is the pre-charge to entering into a space of being vulnerable and being in process, and then what is the aftercare of
after that
of just the 2-hour rehearsal that you have, not just for the entirety of the thing. I think
that's right.
Getting into the specifics of realities for yourself of what do I need to do for myself to jump into something, and then also to help me decompress out of it, because however grand the stakes are, I think that there is just something about this. We're always constantly going on to the next, and for me, at least personally, it's so hard to slow down for just a moment, to just give yourself a second to breathe and to just like take a moment to realize what just happened, however fruitful or not, you know?
I call it the post-show sads. I'm clearly a lover of the process and I love performing, but then losing the process part of all of the work, I'm just like, wait, I don't... I'm not done.
And it's the process of the work, but I also think like we're all choosing however many people to show up to these times that we've allocated in our schedules, that we've either are getting paid for it or not, and taking this intentional time with each other. And then just because we have to move on to the next, whether it's realities of the show is only for 2 weekends or 1 weekend, but like for me, it's a loss. Like I am losing this, this time with these people that I've unearthed something with, you know? This idea of a goodbye after a process is always so hard for me.
it does feel, I think the word loss is really good. Because I feel like I've mourned after performances sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I've been openly like grieving where I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm angry. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling like despair. But then I'm also like, well, I guess I can catch up on my Bravo shows now. Like, you know, like, like there is. Gosh.
And this is all just to say that's for ideally a positive relationship towards that
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that you're mourning. I mean, not
Right.
all things are you know,
Yeah.
there's just a reality
That's
that like,
true.
oh yeah, I am glad that that's done. Like
Yes.
that has had its time.
Yes.
You know, and
Yeah.
also just being able to be okay with having that
Yeah.
feeling and sensation too.
Oh my God.
It's hard.
I have this question also been rolling around in my head. Is group work about finding one singular voice that each dancer serves, or is it about coexisting for the many different voices in the room? Does that make sense?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah. I love when I can hear the thinking.
Can it be both?
I was about to say, is that cheating to say both? Like
That's your answer.
But I also think that the first one, it's impossible.
Ooh, tell me more.
I think a group as like becoming a singular voice is like a metaphor for like what happens on stage. Does that make sense? But it's really impossible to become one thing, which that makes it more interesting. I mean, and I'm not saying here that it's like this is an absolutist like framework of thinking, but the idea of like even as like from a performer point of view and also as a viewer, you can see the metaphor of, you know, everyone is together and we're all communicating this one grand idea, but there are like so many intricacies in between that make that thing, you know.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest epiphanies as a dancer was just like, I don't have to look like them, you know,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter, but if we're all aligning to what we're going for, it's gonna be like, it's gonna flow, you know.
Yeah.
Super abstract, but you know, like
That makes sense.
yeah, so because each experience is so different. That's why people move so differently, and that's for me. That's the interesting part.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
feel that.
So yeah, I think the first one, it's like a metaphor more for me. That's how I interpreted it. You know, like
Yeah.
I feel that I have valued that more because of the teachings of white supremacy, of like you all gotta be. See, I knew this is where you're at because
I knew I apologize.
no, don't. It was good. I needed you to be there so I could be here.
Period.
But I feel that I was taught that I needed to look and be and think the same as my dance friends. Like I had to leave stuff at the door so I could come in as a blank slate.
Oh, that saying.
You know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then as I started to be in other spaces that weren't predominantly white, and then moving to Chicago and focusing on working with mostly Black femme artists or artists of color, I learned that actually the artistry that I love and I feel so close to and is such a tender part of Chicago is that you are different and that you're shifting.
Yes.
You are borrowing ideas and you are inspired and like you can be mimicking or copying or imitating people, but the intention is it's your body, it's your lineage, it's your spirit that's going to come out. So I think I like the idea of both, not the way that like I grew up as a kid, but like I like the idea of trying to match someone and their energy and the way that they're shaping something. But I think I've grown up learning that that was the highest value of art instead of the highest value is like myself coming into the work, you know? And then also like all the other people in that space are coming into the work as well with their stuff on their back, you know? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's real. And I feel like for those of us that have like grown up in this practice, maybe like through school or something, that's how we came into that knowledge, into that frame of thinking.
Yeah.
What they're not telling you is that after you graduate or do whatever, you know, you're still responsible for your own learning. And it's like, okay, I could posture myself as a singular solo person, but I'm still in need of community, and I still want to work with you and you and you and you.
Okay, I want to touch on a little bit about like unexpected discoveries in group work. And what unexpected discoveries you've encountered during the creation of an ensemble piece that have just like straight up surprised you.
Could you give an example from your own experience?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love
Yes.
that. Camila and I did a work together called Search Party.
Yes.
It was by Aaron Kilmurray. That was like 2018. 2018.
Yeah.
And I had been working on that work for like a couple years prior to us like actually getting into the studio for that work. And I was surprised by the feeling, how quickly we all felt like a team
Yeah.
in that work. And because we were all so different. Like Caitlin, Tia, and I had been working on it since the very beginning.
And y'all have been working together for a really long time.
And Aaron and I have been working, and Aaron and Caitlin have all been working together for a really long time. I had just met Dee in that work. When Cammie, you did a version of it at Columbia, and then Maria just auditioned.
Yes.
And so Blanco, so we all were just like coming in, and we're just like, okay. So I was really, really surprised about how we all just like came together. And it wasn't like overnight, to be really clear, but we saw each other. Like the group made sense from jump. And then the way that we just worked together in that process specifically, I was like, this is blowing my mind. And like every rehearsal, we were like pulling closer together. Yeah, I don't know. That was my experience.
No, but it's true, because then like I've fallen into different works that I'm like, you know, like why?
What's missing?
What's missing? What is not? I mean, right? One can have different hypotheses of why. Like, the first thing I think is like because we all really trusted the vision of Aaron, so we all had each of us had a relationship, you know, with them, and like we were able to trust that also because we were 5.
6.
Yeah, 6. So we were 6, and it was very intimate too, you know. And I think we all were. I don't want to talk for everyone, but like in a space and time where we were like really open, maybe to new experiences and like respecting like what the other folks were there to do and learn from that. So that made it really like. It made it home, you know? I look back at that and I'm like, yeah, that was my first like ensemble family that I like, that I was like able
And tears.
it's true, like ensemble family that I was able to like click and feel like, oh my God, I'm at home and it's okay, and they celebrate like how weirdly I move and we're fine. You know, like that was something that I was like, there is respect for like the individuality that the other person brings. You know, so I was like, I like this. You know, we don't have to be all the same.
We're not all the same. We're not all the same. Anyone else? Any surprises?
I guess I would say with my time with Lucky Plush, that type of work in general, never would have I thought that I would be doing that. And not because it's not of interest, but just being able to feel that my actual voice is being supported and want to be heard and want to have a contribution to a larger thing. Whether, you know, Lucky Plush is very narrative and very quick, witty, but there's also a celebration of the individual and how Julia is able to craft the 6, 7 ensemble members as those individuals for the larger work. I think that has been available, and also just because of the history of the ensemble members and how long these people have stuck around for this company and the type of work that they're doing. You know, Megan has been with the company for over 20 years, and Michelle has been with the company for almost 10 years, and, you know, I can't believe I'm almost with them for 6 or 7 years. You know, it's just, there's a sense of surprise around the type of work that I found myself in because of the way that Lucky Plush works in a collaborative space or in a process and an ensemble devising membership, you know, and how that has kind of filtered into other spaces that I find myself into.
Is the question what surprised you about ensemble work? Was that what the question? Or is it surprised you about like
I wrote, what unexpected discoveries have you encountered during the creation of an ensemble piece?
sick?
I mean, I can't say like it's necessarily unexpected, but I'm aware of when, as you were saying, when there's a mental or energetic like resistance or blockage that prevents the collective from really being able to flow. And I admit that I have been that person that has not felt maybe safe enough or, you know, supported, whatever the case is, to fully plug in that, you know, now we're holding some things up.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's I just want to name that, you know, is a contribution to collective space that may or may not always be helpful. Because of some things that haven't been worked out, right? Or because maybe because of the ritualization of entering that space wasn't necessarily there. So, you know, then the exit is worse, you know, like I've been in that sort of circumstance where we all kind of go, well, everybody's working or maybe doing their own individual thing, and then it's time to come together and we can't quite deliver, right? Because there's like,
That's totally like when you talk about like how the space is facilitated and directed. Like not too many people, from my experience being in the performer dancer, you know, place, like I'm not gonna say like no, but facilitating a room, it's a hard job.
And like
creating the spaces and like eliminating like friction points. You know, it's hard. So like sometimes I do understand, like, because I've also been a person that I'm like closed just because there hasn't been a space to like not because I'm in it, it means that I'm just gonna give you that. You know? Like that's not the deal here. It's about like you know, the storytelling, like how are you gonna compose that and like how are you gonna bring that to life, you know? It's like we are not just like pieces of mass moving. You know, like
I'm a human.
Exactly, yeah.
I want to talk about the different part of the creative process. I want to talk about group warm-ups.
Okay.
How important are group warm-ups?
At least group warm-ups, I think, for me at least, depending on the type of work that I'm entering into or the type of work that we are entering into, sometimes I've been in a space where we would have a soft call at, you know, so-and-so time, and then we have 30 minutes available in the space to kind of warm up ourselves, get into the space, kind of touch base with, you know, other people individually before we're kind of in the throw of the thing, you know, and then having at least just like a group check-in at the hard time. I think in that circumstance, so important and in ways like needed to take a moment to get my commute off my back and get the work that I just came from off my back to kind of ground and then have this check-in, whether it's a, you know, 10-minute warm-up or just sharing 2 words of where we're at today, you know. But other times I think like hell yeah, I'm into a group warm-up. Like, you want to lead something?
Go
like,
ahead.
ballet bar? Like, I haven't done that in forever, but like, sure. It's like this,
Yeah.
I think that it also offers this like group collective, like, okay, we're starting our practice together. We're starting from a physical embodied place before we kind of get into the heady, whatever conversations. I think there's something really valuable about that too, of just like, okay, let's kind of raise our heartbeat together.
Yeah.
You know, let's kind of get winded together.
Yes.
You know?
I love
I
that.
think that too. The worst part though is when the warm up that's being led is not helpful.
Yeah.
Ooh, talk about it.
And
Jumping jack.
which sometimes
Which is nice.
I know.
Valuable.
I love those. I'll be that person to just be like stepping out instead of actually fully jumping.
Unless it's like, I think
I know what I need.
exactly. And I've been struggling with that balance of like sometimes I'm like, okay, I want to trust this person that's leading, and in most cases I'm like sick, like I'm letting them lead me, and it's usually something where I'm like, oh, this is gonna get my heart rate up, even if I wouldn't choose the burpees. Like I'm like, okay, I'm down.
Yeah.
But and maybe this is just like the more that you are a part of ensemble work that has you have a unique role. Like I think the way that you need to come into the work is going to be, then that means your warm up is going to be different. But there have been points where I was like, this isn't connected to anything, you know? Like, why am I doing, there was one point when Esther, I don't know if you remember this, but we were dancing for Red Clay this last season.
Nice.
And Red Clay is like an Afro-contemporary dance company. And we were a part of this production that was like presenting many different works. And there was a group warm-up that was led by the people that were presenting it. And it was a ballet warm-up. And we were like, why did y'all invite us?
Yeah.
Why'd y'all invite us when we are doing not ballet? And it was so clear, like who was kind of welcome in that space and who wasn't welcome in that space.
Sure.
And so all of us had mad fun with it. Yeah. Like at the end of the class, we had a bantaba and we're like clapping and stuff, and like we made it our own. Yeah. But I remember that moment of being like, oh wow, like this is where like if I didn't have my own things, like if I didn't have my own roles or like my own soft warm up or the things I know that I need to hold on to take care of myself, I would feel some type of way as I entered the piece, because like running into a space like, all right, like time to do a ballet one, where I'm like, this is not connected to the work, and it's not also maybe giving the space to like let us
absolutely
tap in and the way that we need to tap in, because you hired a Black company to do their Black thing, but you want them to warm up the white way.
There is something to me about a group warm up, similar to what you said, Kara, of coming together before you are together on stage in front of an audience. That I almost view it as like, I'm not coming to you as a stranger. Like I've seen you, I've like moved with you, I've sweated with you a bit. Like we are in this, we've already been in this. We've exchanged energies already. So far, yeah. Okay, this is the question that I've been dying to ask. What makes up, and everyone's going to answer this, so get ready. What makes up your ideal creative process?
I acknowledge that I've walked into rehearsal processes stank. I just acknowledge that. But what always helps me is the candid conversation, is the talking, is the grounding, reminding us that the earth is beneath us, the universe is above, or whatever the case is. And slowly but surely, like a banana, I can remove things and we can press into what needs to happen. But it's gotta be met with a particular kind of softness. And
I love that.
Ideally, I think that helps me to know like who's around, who's got the capacity, where I can plug in. Like I don't bank on anyone being like professional, like therapeutic help. I'm saying that for the humanistic qualities to be like presented immediately, kind of like, or you know, at the entrance of things, so that like the tone is set, I think, in terms of like who we are and where we're going.
Add to maybe, because I liked everything y'all said I'd be down for, you know? Like, I'm not opposed to joining that type of process. I like ensemble works where there's a clear start and end time.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, that's real.
You come in, or it's like we started this time, and then like
yeah.
it's open at this time, and then we're done at this time, and you can do whatever afterwards. I think that is really important for me. I think, even though I really love like the talking and conceptualizing, I'm also finding a challenge in myself right now, which again, like maybe ask me this in a couple of years and I'll be at a completely different spot, where sometimes I get too conceptual, that I'm thinking way too much and I'm not embodying the experience, you know, that we're being asked to do. So I really like it. And I think right now I'd love to be led into finding a embodied experience or being able to tell the story in an embodiment and then having talking points and coming back. I also really like research moments. I like it when I'm asked to read up some stuff, or even Anna Martine Whitehead's Force. We've had a few rehearsals where they would send us articles and then we would read them and we would talk about them. And they, even if they weren't directly connected to the work that we're talking about, there still is some like sick philosophy stuff that we're like, that is a part of the, that those discussions are connected to the work. And I like how other things from other worlds are being brought in to inform the world that we're trying to build. So I think that's why I like a clear boundary of like, here's the world building that we're doing, and then I'm gonna go and do the other thing outside of that. Like I think that boundary is really nice and really important. You know? Yeah.
Kyra?
Truly, all of that. Really, all of that. I guess something I would add is trusting and knowing that everyone in the room who's there wants to be there, and that we are sharing this sacred time together, and that we are going to offer what we can in the best intention. I had another really important one in my head. I think movement, embodiment, really, I think that's right now at this point, or that's really screaming at me is whether we have an idea of what we're doing or we don't, we gotta move at some point. We have to move our bodies at some point in the space. Direction and leadership also, I think, whether it's one person or the collective, but just really having a clear understanding of what we are doing with our time. And whoever or folks that need to make the decision, like trusting that there is someone who will be able to do that. So we're not living in this amorphous. And you know, like, so we can start really crafting and getting to the thing that we've all agreed upon of what our expectation or our goals are at the end.
I want to add, SJ, I don't know if you mentioned this, but also like, yes, boundaries, start, end, love it. You know, I go to bed in a specific hour and it's like, you know, I can't stand later. So like, please, then also, knowing what you're doing and, you know, the people are here. But then, I don't know if this is what you said, Lucy, or maybe you make me think of this, but like, we're not like in a therapeutic space. That's my boundaries. Like, I'm not here to solve a problem. Like, probably solve a problem by putting it on stage, but I'm not here to solve the personal problem of the person that is hiring me to do something. You know, like
you can't work your shit out.
Exactly, you can't use me to do that. Like, it's like
and that's really clear when that's happening.
Yes,
in my
very
experience.
clear. Me too. That's why I mention it. It's like I've experienced it, and I'm like, oh, no,
Too
like
much.
I am
Yes,
not
too
this
much.
person. You know,
Right. That's where I think also the art of the importance of art making exists, where our goal is to not highlight personal problems specifically, or I should say this for myself. I'm really passionate about how we've been taught that things that are actually policy issues or systemic issues or like larger global scale issues have been brought us to believe that it's like personal issues. So I think that's also where it gets difficult, because a lot of the things that we're going to talk about are things that are impacting us individually. But what I'm like super interested in is like how have we kind of been lied to that like some of these things are actually like maybe not exactly something that we have complete control over, and how can we be soft on people but be hard on institutions? And how can we like attack that? And like the way to do that, I think, is through the art making, to make us like get fired up and then like go to some other stuff. But it can be really hard, because a way to attack that is to also learn how to engage and connect with each other personally. And sometimes those lines can be blurred. I've done and also experienced that, where I'm like, okay, here I'm gonna go and like spit all my stuff out, and then somehow the work now has to be about me or someone else cleaning up mine or someone else's stuff, instead of us seeing how we can like really mess up the thing that we actually wanted to talk about, which I think is where the clear direction is really important and super inspiring when that happens, because that's really hard.
And we were just talking about like leadership in the space. So what do you expect from a choreographer in a creative process?
Can I say one?
Yeah,
I'm going to say one.
Yeah.
I think not expect what I want. Like, again, I still want to dream. I really want choreographers to have someone else to lean on for the business executive directive stuff, so then they can like be their full artistic selves. And it's just so much to be like, there's so much to handle, and like the like make sure that you get paid, use those other stuff, or like gotta make sure that we're meeting these parameters or something. And then also the artistic phase. I really think that the best people that I've worked with, there was a team of somebody that was doing this thing, and there was somebody or multiple people that was a team of the leading the artistic space. And that's what I want for myself, and also for all y'all, and just like for everybody, to not be the one that's holding the entire world of this piece to continue forward. You know, like there's a team of people on your back, you know? I think that just like feels like Chicago. Like I got my people.
I got my people in here with me.
Can I just say one other? Just having a clear boundary of if, I guess this is more specific to if the director, leader, choreographer is also friends or has like a long working relationship with their artists or their movers or their dancers or collaborators, whoever, but just having a clear boundary of when that positionship is on, and having a clear expectation around that, and then also, you know, being able to continue the personal, you know, and the personal is very much welcome in the space, but I still think that there's that boundary, that sweet spot, you know, and it's different for everyone, but I think it's so important to have that.
I agree.
On both ends.
I think that is very important. Very, very important. We kind of touched on this, but I'm also curious if anyone has any other thoughts, but the importance of laughter and tears in a creative process.
I think laughter is so important for me. Like, there has to be something that like cuts the space and breaks through and makes everybody be like, "Whoa, what's up?" You know, and like enlivens the space, because sometimes we can be like so like, okay, so we're here doing this thing, you know. So I think laughter is like key to see like how you're relating with one another, and if you get each other's jokes. And sometimes when you don't get it, I'm like, you know, like it's wrong. It's all right. Move it on. Same way.
Not this crowd. Got it. All right.
It has. Laughter can like activate, can like break through really hard moments, you know, and like crying tears can like, you know, be tears of joy or like of sadness when you're moved, you know, and I think those are beautiful, you know.
Cool. Okay, we're gonna play some like true or false. True or false.
Kind of like rapid fire.
Little rapid fire. Would you say like true? False. True or false?
Okay.
Experiment plus curiosity equals Chicago dance.
True.
Oh. True or false? Variety plus opportunity equals Chicago dance.
Variety plus opportunity.
I would say true.
Question.
Yes.
Variety in what?
I think when I was thinking about the question, I was like variety of movement, variety of voices, variety of intention.
And what's can you expand
Variety plus opportunity equals Chicago dance.
on, what do you mean by opportunity?
Fund resources, funding, people who you want to collaborate with.
That
Thank you.
equals Chicago.
I would say true for me.
Yeah.
That's what I experienced. I'm going to say true too.
I want to say false.
Oh,
In a
okay.
way that I believe that we need to work better and think about how to create an industry here in Chicago.
Okay.
To formalize stuff, and actually give, dignify the artistic craft of being an artist.
Okay.
You know, I don't enjoy being I love what I do, but I don't enjoy, right? Enjoy what I do, but I also don't enjoy the fact that we're constantly grabbing and trying not to fall. You know,
okay.
it's I think that that's not helpful for the ecosystem, mental health. It just trickles down to the person, and we are the only ones that are upholding ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair for what we do.
Real.
So and it's a false of not in a hate false, but in a we have to think about more how to connect the dots, not do the same that we were doing before to move forward. You
Make
know,
our work more sustainable.
sustainability is a big word for me right now. So
True or false?
I think it has felt true for me, but I think it has maybe felt false for others, or in a larger space.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of opportunity, that's shifting, but I feel incredibly blessed to have had a number of opportunities to feel like I can speak on that and still have a job.
Yeah.
And to speak at this panel and still get hired for something. Where I feel like I know a number of my friends where they are either more open than I am and they're darker than I am, or they are trans, or they have a different identity and they have less opportunity than I do.
Yeah.
And it yeah. So I'm in the middle. I can
Just
Yeah, I'm we could dream a little bit better. This could be better. Whoever's watching this and wants to do spend some money down somewhere.
It's gonna be better.
It's gonna be better.
It's gonna be better. Please make it better. Okay, this is the final question. This final true or false final question. True or false? Community plus creative hunger plus drive equals Chicago dance.
Community, creative hunger, and drive.
Community plus creative hunger plus drive equals Chicago dance. I like your dance you're doing. Do you have a shimmy in there?
True.
Yeah, true for Kara. Okay.
True.
True for Ra.
yeah. I'm so skeptical about things, but
That's okay. That's a real ass answer.
And just because I'm right now starting to see how we're all coming out of the wave of, basically the pandemic. So I'm right now experiencing okay, people are still, we're all trying to push it forward, you know? So I feel like we're in the, when you're about to surf a wave and you're waiting for it, but we're all paddling. So I feel, we're here. We can make a meme out of this. And
I think so. I mean, the drive is that last kicker for me, because it's regardless of how much we dream, you have to press accelerate and put in some time. And put in some work and kind of shift your relationship to the labor that it takes so that it doesn't take you out. And I think that I'm saying, I think ultimately we can galvanize and stretch and reach and dream and everything. But Chicago dance, from my experience and working with others and being in partnership, just in conversation, it's really about
this collective notion to like decide together that we're going to do a thing. And from that, you know, I think a plethora of possibilities are possible. So true. And I have my feelings.
Yeah, we love that.
And I have my feelings.
I love that. I love that. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. This has been a goddamn thrill. This conversation has like fed me. I know we've been eating and drinking, but like this conversation has like truly fed me in this way of like, you all are so smart. You all are so talented, and your voices are so incredibly necessary in our dance ecosystem. And I'm like very, 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 very grateful to sit at this table with you all today. And for everybody that's listening, like this is to me, like this is Chicago dance. So, oh my God. Stop. It's true. Stop. It's true. It is true. I want to thank you all. I want to thank Soham. I want to thank Tightrope Recording. I want to thank Mal, Anjul, like all of you guys, all the listeners. Like, thank you so incredibly much. And check out some Chicago dance.
Yay! We love Chicago.
Chicago.
Woo! Chicago dance. Chicago.